Thank you all for coming. This has been a sad morning. It's been a difficult time for sure. I am happy to report that our officer is doing well. He is in stable condition. It is every chief's nightmare to hear that one of their officers has been shot, and I certainly got that feeling this morning when I learned of this. But he is not only a hero, he is very brave, and he did an outstanding job. And I want to say again how thankful I am for him being okay. And again, he's in stable condition. So I want to talk about how this all occurred, the initial contact. Our officer, along with a few others, was doing a park curfew in Zilker Park. They came up on a car that was stolen, reported stolen. The officer at that point called for a tow to come to the park, and the other officers left the scene to go to other parts of the park to see if there were any other curfew violators in the park. At this time, the tow company arrived, and the officer was assisting with that, doing his paperwork, and saw two individuals start to exit from the lining of the trees. He saw them, gave them commands to come toward him. As he's giving those commands, the female was in front of the male. The male was behind, I would say, looking from the video, about 5 to 6 feet maybe. At that point, the officer, the male seems to be hiding something in his hands. The officer gives commands, show me your hands, let me see your hands. At that point, the male suspect brought up his gun, fired, and struck the female in the back of the head. At that point, he continued to fire, striking our officer. At that point, our officer was able to pull his weapon and return fire. The officer, at that point, we did not know whether the suspect had been struck by the officer's bullets, as he ran into some brush and we could not see from his body-worn camera. One of the officers that was working the detail came back and actually drove him to the hospital in his own car, while the other officer stayed with the female and called for EMS to come. Officers got to the hospital, and he was seen and rushed into surgery right away. And again, he's in stable condition. I think it's important to know too, at that point, immediately after that, we didn't have a suspect in custody. SWAT arrived, 5 canine officers arrived with their dogs. Air 1 was up. There was a huge hunt on for this suspect within that wood. And you think about the area and how large that area is. They did a fantastic job. At that point, a 911 suspicious call person came out from AISD sergeant, basically seeing a suspicious person. Again, AISD, this is a school that's very close. They had a huge police presence at the school. One of the sergeants there, at that point, I think all the kids were brought into the school. The school had started, and they saw a suspicious person. He called it out, went to approach him, and he took off running. At that point, our officers came, started chasing the suspect. He then ran into the Barton Hills community and ran into a house. At that point, he was shot by the owner of that home. He is in stable condition. I believe he was shot in the arm and in the leg. And I know when you talk about putting these systems in place, we originally, when SWAT arrived, we put a shelter in place, and that was put out on the warncentraltexas.org. And that shelter in place was in effect, I believe, for about 50 minutes. And then it was changed from shelter in place to avoid the area. Now, listen, I have serious concerns about why that happened myself. And I know there's questions about that, and I will get to the bottom of why that happened and ensure that there's processes in place to ensure that it does not happen again. So that never should have been changed. But I can tell you this, the homeowner who is here, I saw him on my way up the elevator, and he stopped me, and he said, I want to tell you that shelter in place saved my life. It saved our family. Because of that, I prepared. And so I think it's important that when you look at what this is capable of doing, it does save lives. But again, why was it changed to avoid the area? And that's for cars. A shelter in place is there is something going, something active, and it gives people that mindset of let me prepare for this. But a avoid the area is simply heavy police presence, don't drive in this area. And so I am absolutely going to get to the bottom of why that occurred. And again, ensure that we have processes in place so it does not happen again. And again, I encourage our community to sign up for warncentraltexas.org. I think it has proven how effective that is, and I want everyone in this city to stay safe and sign up for that. I think that just proves how effective that is. I think I'll take a couple questions at this time.
What's the status of the female?
The female was shot. I believe she is still. I don't think we're going to have a positive outcome for her. It is not looking great for her, but she has not been pronounced at this time.
When it comes to those alerts, they come here from the department. Where are they sent from, and how does that work? And talk a little bit about that mixed messaging too, because you have an alert that says clear the area, but we're still tweeting out that there's a shelter in place. Just talk a little.
Yeah, I will talk about it, and I think it's important to note too. This is preliminary information. In 72 hours by Friday, we'll have another press conference here and a briefing, and I will have more information on that. What I do know is that it was changed. I want to get to the bottom of why it was changed, how it was changed, how it happened, and again, those processes in place to ensure that it does not happen again. So I am just as curious as you.
Chief Davis or maybe Chief Sneed, could either of you speak about the confusion, I guess, for parents, because I understand that maybe like parents who were confused about that
Sure.
notification being changed.
Did you want to come?
Having their kids go to school.
Good morning. Wayne Sneed, Chief of Police with Austin ISD Police Department. Listen, these situations are very dynamic, right? They're constantly changing, they're constantly moving. Information is constantly changing, information is constantly moving. And so what we try to do is ensure that the decisions that we're making when it comes to our standard response protocols, that's our secures, our lockdowns, holds, things along those lines, that we're using the most informed decision that we can to keep our community, our campus community, our staff, and our students safe. So we're deriving it based on information either we're receiving sometimes from the media, sometimes maybe from one of our partners, or maybe from one of our students on campus, or one of our parents. And so when we're doing this, obviously we're trying to use the best judgment that we can under those circumstances.
And then Chief Sneed, as the actions by that sergeant on that campus possibly kept kids safe from the suspect entering the school. What can you say about his actions and how he performed?
I go along with obviously him being able to recognize that I've got someone who matches the description and putting that information out, broadcasting it with our, as I say, our partners. We work very closely on a daily basis. Our schools do not live in silos. They're in communities, right? And so things happen in and around our communities. And so with our partnerships and the strong partnerships that we've had, he was able to get on the radio, communicate that information to the Austin Police Department dispatch and officers. They were able to get there promptly, which probably saved other people's lives.
Can you tell us a little bit about the suspect? Do we know who he is, what his background is, that sort of thing?
That is something, Meredith, that we'll have on Friday for you. At this point, we still have families to notify. We have other things to do here on the investigation. But they were younger. They were both younger, male and female whites, born in the early 90s. So, dealing with some relatively young people. But you look at the whole totality of everything. It's a horrible situation. Again, I'm grateful that our officer's okay and that we have a homeowner who defended himself and defended his home. And there's nothing more to say there.
Last question. Can you tell us anything about the officer? How long has he been?
We'll have that on Friday, but I believe he's been around 5 years. But just a fantastic job. And you'll see on Friday when we show the video, his body-worn camera, again, just very calmly coming on, talking about that he had been hit. And again, these are actions of a hero who did a fantastic job and just doing his work. I'm sorry?
Where was he hit?
I think we'll talk about that on Friday as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.